So, this all started around December, right? I'm 17. I just turned 17 that August. I'm a young senior. All my friends are 18, or now 18, but at the time they were all 17. So yeah, there was this movie that just came out. It was called Zero Dark 30. And this was like the most anticipated movie coming out. Everybody wanted to see it. But the thing was, it was a rated R movie. And I had always been sneaking into movies, you know, trying to jive my way through, you know, trying to sneak past security guards. But I was finally 17 and I had just gotten my license, so I had an ID. So this was the first rated R movie that I could actually go to with my friends and then have to, you know, sneak around. And so I was sitting there like, yeah, you know, look at me, you know, 17, I can do what I want. And around this time, I just got in my car. 1999 Mercury Cougar. I call it the Thundercat. And, this car was hand down to me from my brother, and it was beat up. I mean, everything, like, there's dents in it, you know, the trunk was ripped open on the sides, but, but it was mine, and I felt entitled to it. So I was like, you know, this is mine. Call it the Thundercat, it's all mine, nobody can have it. So we get up to the wait, before we get to the movies, I take a friend with me, and before we go to the movies, I remember I was like, hey, I gotta go to the store real quick. So we drive to the store down the street, right down the street from my house. And I told him to just wait in the car. I was like, I'll be right back. I'll wait in the car. I was gonna go get some snacks. So I walk up, you know. He didn't know what was going on, but I knew exactly what I was doing. I had a special friend that was working there. With this special friend, he, you know, I used to go to school with him. And so, you know, he'd help me out. I got what I needed to get. And so I got back in the car, we drove to the movies. So while at the movies, we were watching the movie, and I'm just going like, hey, I'm like, oh my God. Like, by the way, this movie was like incredibly incredible. Like, this is probably the best movie I've ever seen. Pretty much just because I didn't have to sneak into it, so I wasn't, you know, looking down to see if there's any, you know, security guards. I was sitting there like, I can be here right now. So I'm like, we're, you know, yelling like, ah! You know, it was a really like crazy action movie. And on the way out, after the movie, on the way outside, we were walking, all of our friends, we were all walking to our cars. And we get to our cars, and we were all sitting there, you know, laughing like, oh, dude, that movie was crazy, man. That movie was insane. And I was like, yeah, dude. And I was with my friend, they're like, so, where are we going to go out to eat? And they were like, McDonald's and wings and more. And I was like, actually, guys, I got to drop my friend off. He has a curfew. And I saw myself as, you know, a responsible adult. So, you know, I got to be responsible. So I was like, yeah, I gotta take him home, guys. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, dude. You know, did our, you know, hand claps or whatever. Got in my car. And I was like, hey, friend, call your mom just to let him know that we're on our way. I'll be right back. He was like, okay. So he's calling his mom. I get out, and because my car's so beat up, I had to take the keys out the car just to unlock it, and then unlock my front door because the alarm will go off in the back. It's beat up. So I open my trunk and I pull it up, and when I pull it up, have you ever seen those movies where like the drug dealer pulls up the trunk and it's like gold like flashing in his face? That's what I felt like. I opened my trunk and I was like, ah, and I was like, okay. And then on the side of my trunk, there's like a rip where there was like cotton, but it ripped up because it's so, you know, beat up. And inside there was a pack of cigarettes that I had gotten from the store. And I knew exactly what kind to get because my brother's older. He's like 29 now, I think. And he'd been smoking these types of cigarettes since I was, you know, way younger. So I was like, and I had looked up to him way too much, you know. And I was like, I know exactly what kind to get. And I got that kind, and I pulled him, and I went and got in the front seat, sit down, got my key, and my friend looked at me, he was like, who's those? I was like, don't worry about it. So we started driving, and I light one, and that first smoke I took, I was like, and I was sitting here swerving, and I had to, you know, brake. And then he was just like, are you okay? I'm like, don't worry about it, I'm fine. And the more I did it, you know, the more cooler I felt. But I don't know, it was something inside of me telling me like, what are you doing right now? You're being stupid. And I was like, no, I'm responsible. I'm an adult. I'm 17. I can go to state penitentiary. No, I'm old, you know. I'm responsible. I was wrong. We were driving about halfway done. We're about a mile away from my house and about a mile away from that corner store. And I'm driving and we see a guy to my right. And he's being pulled over by the cops. All you see is flashing red and blue lights because it's dark. And while we're driving by, and my friend's like, hey. And then I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what a chump. And I was driving, right? And he's like, who's that? And I was like, probably somebody's getting pulled over. He was like, no, behind us. And I was like, looked in my rearview mirror, flashing red and blue lights. And at that moment, it was like an instant flick. Like, it was ridiculous. And I pulled over to the side, and at this point, my leg is shaking so, and I have a stick shift, so I'm sitting here shaking, and I can't even hold the stick down, so I had to turn off my car. It was ridiculous. The cop pulled over, I rolled down my window, I looked at him like this, like that, and then all you saw was him pop the end of his flashlight to turn it on and shine it in my face, and I was like, yes, sir? He was like, what are you boys doing this evening? And I was like, you know, I was on the way back from a movie, I had my movie ticket. He was like, why does it smell like smoke in the car? My brother, I just got this car, it was a hand-me-down from my brother, and it smells like smoke, he was a smoker. He was like, oh, then whose are those? And I was like, those cigarettes, and I was like, yeah, I just pulled those out of the, and he was like, well, step out of the car for me. Stepped out of the car, and I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm like, I don't know what to put in my pocket so I'm just like, he's like, go stand by my hood. And so me and my friend are both on his hood, and he's sitting there talking with his police friend. And they have my license at this point. The other policeman says, you're James Johnson, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, is your brother David Johnson? I was like, yeah. He was like, he's my frat brother. We used to go to school together. And I was like, and like that point I was like, yeah, man, I got this, dude. I'm so in the clear, right? He came up to me, both of them, and he was like, all right, so since you're 17, you're gonna get a minor in possession of tobacco. And at that point I was like, ugh. And I'm just like, what am I gonna do? And I got the ticket, and he told me the court date, and then I get back in the car, and at this point I don't know where to go home or what, but I go home, and that whole night I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I called my brother. I was like, you gotta help me. And he said, I'll help you. So he paid half of my ticket, and he said, on 2 conditions I'll do this. 1, you never tell mom and dad this happened, and 2, you never smoke another cigarette a day in your life. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm all about it. And so after everything happened, I realized that you can't just play adult. You have to actually be an adult. Thank you.